Hello everyone, this is my auction house flipping guide for Wrath Classic. There are many videos out there on this topic, but all of them are missing some things or they are simply outdated, so I would like to make a video that covers everything important in one place, so you don't have to watch lots of different guides. This is going to be a long video, but there's gonna be timestamps in the description, so you can skip to the part that is more interesting to you. If you are new to flipping, I'd recommend watching the entire video. I will be showing everything on the classic auction house, but the concept is the same for retail. In the beginning, I'm going to be talking about the basics, and later on I will show you some more advanced tips and techniques. Alright, it's time to get started. So, what is flipping? Basically, it just means buying something, then reselling for a profit within a reasonable time. You could also say it is very short-term investing. To give an example, take a look at this armor vellum. They are posted a lot cheaper than they usually go for, so I can just buy them all out and repost them at a higher price. In only 10 minutes, 3 stacks have already sold for 16 gold profit a stack, making me 50 gold with no effort whatsoever. Of course, 50 gold is nothing, but this example shows how easy it is to make gold with flipping. What I just showed you is the standard flipping that most people do. However, there is another way of flipping called resetting a market. That is what I'm going to be focusing on this video, because I believe it's the best way to make gold if you get very good at it. So what's the difference between flipping and resetting a market? When you flip, you buy out everything up to a certain price. When you reset a market, you buy out everything that is posted, allowing you to set a new price for that item. This can be pretty difficult to do well, because you have to know what items are good to reset, at what time you should reset a specific item, and figuring out a new price can also be pretty difficult. If you post it too high, it won't sell. If you post it too low, it's not really worth your time. Now I will be going over these, pointing out what mistakes to avoid and give you some examples. Let's begin with the items you can flip. The 3 types of items I flip are materials, non-farmable or hard to obtain items, and crafted items. They all can be very profitable, so let's go over each one. Materials. I'd divide them into 2 categories, current expansion materials and old world materials. Generally, current expansion materials such as ores and herbs are very difficult to reset, as there's tons of them on the auction house, especially on larger servers. So what you can do with these is buying them when they are posted extraordinarily cheap for some reason. A few examples: Adder's Tongue and other herbs tend to drop a lot in price as soon as the Darkmoon Fair ends, because people were buying them in bulk to mill and craft Darkmoon trinkets, but when the fair is over, they stop buying, the demand heavily drops, which leads to unusually low prices for a short period. Other reason might be a bot dumps hundreds of stacks of ore for way below market price to get rid of his stock ASAP. You can capitalize on that and buy out the entire batch. Another thing you can do with these materials is paying attention to the price changes of an item during the week, and buy when it's usually the cheapest and sell whenever it goes up. You can easily get 20 to 40% profits from this. For example, if you buy an item during the weekend, it's usually cheaper because there's way more people playing, farming and posting on the auction house. So what you can do is buy every cheap material in this time frame and sell your stock during the weekday when prices are generally higher. Be very careful though, it is very server dependent how the prices usually change and is different for every item, so I would recommend checking out a website called jpworgan.com for classic players or the underminejournal.com for retail players, and look at the graphs for a specific item in the past few weeks or months, so you can get an idea what's the best time to buy. You can find links to these websites in the description below. This method can be a little difficult at the beginning, so I would recommend staying away from this until you have plenty of gold to play with. Moving on to the old world materials, now this is a lot more interesting, because there's way less supply for these and the demand can be pretty high. Of course there are exceptions, there are some materials that bots like to farm, but in general there's way less of these on the auction house. You have a few options to make gold on these, but my favorite thing to do is flipping items that you need for leveling up professions. These items are very easy to flip because there's always lots of people leveling up new professions, and when they do so, they want to do it as fast as possible. So when there is only one recipe to gain skill points, they will have to buy the mats for it. If the item they need for the craft usually costs 2 gold, but you have reset it to 50 gold, they will still buy it because they only need a few skill points anyway, and they want to be done with leveling as fast as possible. It usually works the best with items that are annoying to get. For example, when leveling jewel crafting, you usually need a lot of low-level pearls. These are perfect to reset, because people would rather pay the 50 gold than going out in the world farming nagas. The next category is the non-farmable or hard-to-obtain items. This includes stuff like word-drop recipes, word-drop BOE gear, low-drop rate items, so basically anything that is hard to come by. Things you can't really farm for, you just get them if you are lucky. These are pretty good to flip for many reasons. They are very sought after, there's usually very few of them posted on the auction house due to their low drop rate, so you can easily buy them out and control the price as you wish. If you happen to reset something, others can just craft or farm more of it and undercut you or screw over the price. These items are generally more expensive, so naturally they sell slower. However, if you are the only seller, your chances of selling them are pretty high. You can play for people's patience. Even if you try to sell something for a lot more than it usually goes for, and you are the only seller, you will sell it eventually, because no one will wait forever for it to get cheaper. Let's move to the next category, which is crafted items. Flipping crafted items can be pretty risky, because people can craft as much from them as they want, but they also have extremely good sale rates, so you can sell a lot in a very short amount of time. For example, if you manage to reset a gem market at around 11 PM server time, you make tons of gold. Most raids end at around this time, and every single person who got a new piece of gear will head to the auction house to put a gem into their new items. On a bigger server, it means you get a sale every few seconds if your item is the cheapest one posted. It doesn't matter if it's more expensive than usual, people will buy it anyway. Two things that are very good to flip: items that you only have to buy once, like glyphs for example, and items that people need before or after raids. For example, before raids, it's pretty common to see almost all alchemy potions going up in price, because everyone realizes, oh damn, I ran out of potions and raid is starting in 5 minutes, let me quickly buy some. This is very good for sellers, because they can easily sell for a lot more in this time frame. People can't really go raiding without consumables, so they are forced to pay the higher prices. This is a very common thing that's been happening since WoW exists, but it's still working. Here are a few tips for flipping crafted items. Tip number 1. You can play around how the WoW API works. Blizzard provides auction house data every hour. This means add-ons cannot automatically update prices more frequently than that. TSM generally updates its prices between every hour to every hour and 15 minutes. What you can do is wait until the prices get updated, then immediately after that, reset the price of an item that wasn't profitable before. This gives you around 45 minutes to have almost no competition selling that item, because everyone else will see that it is losing them money if they craft the item, or even selling it is bad for the same reason. You can trick TSM's restock function with this too, since most people's crafting operations are set to check the min buyout, and if that is high, the item is profitable, so they only craft it when it's over the crafting price. When you mass craft items, you usually rely on your crafting operations and don't check every item one by one, so it is a pretty good way to avoid competition. If you want, you can go one step further and drop the price back for a few minutes when the 1 hour passes, so when TSM gets the new API data, it will show the old price once again. I've seen some people use this technique and they had huge success. Of course you can't eliminate all competition, but it certainly helps a whole lot. Tip number 2. Try to find items with very high sale rate and not so many auctions posted while being at around or below crafting cost. Many times crafted items get posted below crafting cost. This can happen for a few reasons, but the main reason is poorly set up TSM operations or people trying to get out of a market as quick as possible. Both is good if you try to flip items, because it means you can get it cheaper than anyone else, but more importantly, you can't lose gold on it. And that's the number 1 rule, you don't want to be losing gold, no matter what. And finally, tip number 3. Avoid trying to flip items that are crafted when leveling up a profession. What I mean by that is that it is the cheapest craft you can do when you level up something, so obviously everyone will make that one over the others, so there's always a huge supply, regardless of how many people buy that specific item, so you don't want to mess with those. Now that you know what items you can flip in general, let's talk about prices. When you reset the price of an item, how can you know what is a reasonable price to set it to? And the short answer is, you cannot know. You have to try it out and see what prices you can get away with. Some tips that I can give. Current expansion materials cannot be sold way higher than they usually go for because they are used for crafting, and when a craft is not profitable due to high material prices, people will simply not craft them. So don't go very high with those prices. Old world materials are different as they are mostly used for profession leveling or other stuff, so they can get expensive and still sell, but still not too expensive. Rare items on the other hand, like recipes and BOEs, can sell for ridiculous amounts of gold. Usually you can be the only seller of these items for many days, so you can get away with very high prices. However, if you set it unreasonably high, you might never sell your items. One thing I would recommend is not looking at market values. It is way better to think about how much gold is a lot nowadays. Most players will at least have 20 to 30,000 gold simply from playing. Players who actually make gold from professions will have a lot more. So instead of looking at an item and saying, oh, I'm already selling it at 500% market value, surely no one will buy it, look at the actual value. It may be 500% the usual price, but if it only means a change from 2 gold to 10 gold, no one gives a shit. It is still dirt cheap. So you don't rely on market value, try to think about how much you can sell for and not how bad does this price look. And finally, crafted items. The same goes for these. If it is not a material, you can give it any price that is somewhat realistic. I've sold stuff at prices I didn't think was possible. Just to give some examples, I've sold glyphs for 500 gold a piece when they literally cost 1 gold to make. Doesn't matter that it is over 500,000% its crafting cost, it's still sold. Same for the rods crafted with blacksmithing. They are required for the enchanting rods and they cost around 10 to 15 gold to craft. I've been selling them for 200 gold easily. They usually go for 30 to 40 gold, but when they drop to around crafting cost, I've bought them all out and released it for 200 gold. I hope this gives you an idea that how much you can overprice items and still get sales. You have to test it out yourself, there's no better way. Setting very high prices can also help with undercutters. Let's say something usually goes for 10 gold, but you reset it to 20 gold. Someone comes and undercuts to 15 gold, someone undercuts them and it's already back to 10 gold. All the profit is gone. What you want to do instead is to post for 50 gold, and when someone comes in and undercuts you, they undercut to 30, then to 25, maybe till 20, but the price won't go below 20 for a while at least. This is a mistake I see many people make, but it's this simple to avoid. Just post it higher at the start. I hope it was understandable and you learned something. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. If you are not subscribed and you like the video, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, see you in the next one.